morning, Nashik. How good was the missile I had yesterday? The sabudana vada at Sayantara, the missile at Tushar, and the khandeshi mutton at Renuka. Your food is absolutely fabulous. Now, I have a question for you. If you've woken up this morning and within at least an hour of waking up, not checked your social media feed, just let me know. Put up your hand if you have not checked your social media. Okay, I can see about 5 or 6 hands saying that they haven't. So which means that it just goes to show that how integral social media has become a part of our lives today. We get up, we check it, and that's how it is. And I must say that for me, it's a very important part of my life. Social media has been a very big part of my life for the last 15 years. I'm in front of you today because of social media, because I had come to Mumbai from Kolkata 20 years back, not to be a film star, but to be a market researcher. And then I started blogging on food 12 years back. I started writing my blog, Finely Chopped. And if I'm here today giving you a talk on food in TEDx, is because of that. My last trips to Nasik used to be to present market research findings to Mahindra. So very different trip. But the thing about social media is that it's changed. It's changed in the last few years. And that's not always been a very pleasant change, because there are times now when we wake up and we see our feeds filled with depression, anxiety, hate, lot of polarization, and that's the unfortunate reality of our times today. And that's not the best of spirits to wake up with. But the fact of the matter is that we needn't accept this, because this is not going to be one of those speeches about how things were different back in the day. I'm someone who strongly believes that you can take control of your narrative. And that's what this is going to be about. This talk is going to be about. This talk is about how food can bring us together. So that's what my social media feed looks up. I get up and I speak about my breakfast and where I've gone out, and especially if my wife is there, about candies where we go to together, or the meals which I've had at home. So it's about the food which we've had at home and the breakfast which we've had. And what if we start our morning talking about that? Because that can bring a big difference. But you might say that, no, that's being defeatist, because there are so many things which are happening in the world, and why aren't we talking about that? But my take is that we don't always know about what's out there. What we know is what's happening in our lives, and that's what we can control. And the fact of the matter is, okay. So the fact of the matter is that food connects us all. If you look at it from ancient time, men, women, we've all stayed together as tribes because we've gone out together and we've hunted, and that's how society was initially formed. And if you see even today, that continues to be the way things are. Because if you go up to someone and talk about their marriage, their health, their professional life, they might not want to speak to you about that. But speak to them about their food, what is the sort of food which they like, what are their favorite food memories, and they'd be happy to speak to you. And that's the reality of life. That's a fact, that food connects us all. And when we see a lot of negativity around us, it might weigh down on us. But what we also know is that at a fundamental level, all of us want peace, we want happiness, and the fact of the matter is that happiness of self comes from the happiness of others. And what we need is dialogue. We need conversations, and food facilitates this. Like what you see in this picture here is of a place called Zahuri in Western Street in Kolkata. It's a place where the immigrant laborers of the city come and stay who come from outside the state. And they come to eateries like this, and they eat in the morning, and food which is like not that expensive, and they fill themselves, and they go out. But what I learned over there is that people from different villages come and meet here, and this time which they spend together ensures that they don't feel lonely in a new city. Also what happens is that locals from the city come here also because they've heard of the dal puris, which you can see in the basket, and freshly fried, and it's brilliant. And that way suddenly the outsiders from the city and the people who are the locals find a common ground and start connecting. And there are some very interesting examples like this of how food can bring people from different communities, different classes together, and how this is happening across our time in history. Now let's look at this. Now, you might be wondering, what is this? Is this a biryani? Is this a pulao? Like, if you were to ask me and if you were to just show me this picture, I would tell you that this probably looks like a mutton biryani at a place like Idris or Wahid's in Lucknow. But it's not. This belongs to something which is called the Sheherwali cuisine, and again from Calcutta. Now, you might be wondering what is the Sheherwali cuisine? I didn't know it either. I have grown up in Kolkata, but I've been in Mumbai for the last 20 years, and I'd not heard of this. I just heard of it very recently and got to taste it as well. And I found the story very interesting. So about 300 years back, there were the Oswal Jains from Jaipur and all of Rajasthan who'd come to Calcutta and for trade, and then they settled down over there in Bengal. In fact, Calcutta was still new, so they moved into Murshidabad where the Nawabs were, and which was the center of the state, and they would ply their trade from there. And they were called Sheherwalis because they lived in the Sheher, which is what Murshidabad was called. But as they started living there, they started taking in influences from the people they would see around them. So from the Bengalis, they learned, not to have machar jhol because they were Jains who were vegetarian, but they learned how to bring in the use of green leafy vegetables into their diet because they were from Rajasthan, where all of this was not available. Then they learned food techniques from the Nawabs. And the fact of the matter is that the Nawabs were Muslim, but from them they learned the dum style of cooking, the use of saffron or kesar, or dried fruits and nuts. And this pulao, which is called a paniful pulao, is a great example of that because it uses water chestnuts and fresh water chestnuts, which is very typical of Bengal. It uses the dum style of cooking, and it uses basmati rice and kesar. And at the same time, it's got a very Rajasthani heart because it's got masala in it. And it's spicy, but no onion, no garlic. So it's a dish which has got an influence of 3 different cultures, 3 different communities, 3 different religions, and has created something so beautiful. This happened 300 years back, and sometimes when we look at social media today and we see the sort of stands which people take, we wonder if something like this could happen again. But if it had happened then, I'm sure it can happen now, and it was created by ordinary people. And there are more examples, and this time from our home state, the state I call home as well, and vada pav. Now, when you go to a vada pav place, they will often ask you, how many chutneys do you want in it? Do you just want the sukha lasan chutney, or do you want the tamarind imli chutney, or the coriander hara chutney? I'm going to ask you, how many stories do you want in a vada pav? Because even the simple vada pav has many, many stories. To start with, the batata vada, which is the heart of the vada pav, didn't exist in India till about 300 years back, simply because the most essential ingredient, the potato, didn't exist here, nor did the green chili. So they were brought in by the Portuguese about 300 years back as a part of what's called the Columbian Exchange. And then they became a part of households across India. So whether it's the aloo posto in Bengal, or the stuffing of the masala dosa in the south, or the aloo which comes with the kulcha in the north, aloo is always there, and of course in our batata vada. But the thing is that when the Portuguese came in, they were Europeans, they're white-skinned. They had also come in as evangelists, and they were looking at conversions. But even then, when people found that there were ingredients which are interesting, like the potato and the chili, they adopted that. Can we think of that today? But there's more to it, because, okay, batata vada was there, but what about the vada pav? Now, people who are old-timers in Nashik will remember that even your misal didn't come with a pav till maybe 20, 30 years back. It used to be with roti. And there's a reason for that, because the pav was introduced to Mumbai, Calcutta by the Portuguese, and the initial bakeries were run by the Iranis and the Goans. And there were a lot of discomfort, especially in Hindu upper class or Brahmin households in terms of consuming pav from there, because it was made by people by other religions. Toddy was used for fermentation, and there were a lot of rules. But in the 1960s in Mumbai, there was a scheme which was sort of propagated by the Shiv Sena political party, saying that they were urging Maharashtrian youth who were at that time looking for employment to open up vada pav stalls and run their families on the basis of that. Because there was a gentleman named Ashok who still runs a place at near Kirti College in Dadar in Mumbai, who started selling vada pav outside Dadar station in Mumbai, or so the legend goes. So they said, why don't you all do that? And they started doing it, and it became a big hit. And suddenly there was vada pav, there was pav bhaji, there was misal pav, there was cutlet pav, there was samosa pav, there was pav everywhere. But the thing is that pav was so alien to the kitchen, to the community. But suddenly it became a big part of the fabric. And again, is that something which can be thought of today? Probably not. But these things have happened, and these things have happened in our country, in our state, and these have all been done by like regular folks who've looked at for inspiration from people who are different from them, but found interesting things which they could take in their lives. But what this also meant that there was already a process of dialogue or conversation which was happening between them, because how else would they have known about the pav? How else would the Jain have known about the Dum style of cooking? So it was all about conversations. And that's the thing about food, that it connects all of us at a human level. And which is what I'm trying to say, that food is what runs our lives. It's really the source of everyday food which brings us together. Because people say that food is a form of art which binds us together. Food is a language which binds us together. Because everyone feels hungry. And everyone wants to feel nourished and well-fed. So we often feel that how can food and world peace go together? That seems a bit bombastic, right? But what I'm saying is that you write about the sort of food which you eat, and that can create great stories. Which brings me to the next question which people often have, is that what do I write about food? Because I eat boring food. I eat dal chawal. I don't go to five-star hotels. I don't go to France. My food is not exciting. What should I write about? But it is the stories of everyday food which is what connects us as people. In fact, the Buddhist philosopher, Dr. Daisoke Ikeda, had said that even though not visible on the surface, it is the unremitting efforts of ordinary individuals that bring in a new age. And ordinary individuals are people like you and me. So what I'm saying is that go out there and talk about your food, write about your last meal which you've had. Share it at any platform you're comfortable with, whether it's a blog and writing long form, or Instagram, or Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just go there and share, like what do you eat, where did you get to learn about it, who introduced you to these dishes, what does it mean in your culture, how are the sort of changes which you would like to do, what are the dreams and aspirations of your life that this food symbolizes. And what will happen is that when people read this, when the people get to see this, then they'll get to know more about you. And suddenly they say that, hey, this guy is not that different from me. Maybe he lives in other part of the country, other part of the world, belongs to a different religion from me, different social community, class from me, different gender. But we do have the same dreams and aspirations. We all want a certain thing in life which is common. We all want peace, we want happiness, we want to progress together. And that's the sort of message which comes out. So what I'm saying, to sort of sum up, is that I know it seems very overwhelming right now when we see things happening. We don't know which way to go. We feel sort of overwhelmed and a bit worried. But I'm saying that don't let that take over you. Just go out there and speak about what you believe in and create the sort of world which you want. Because if you go by the principle of oneness of self and environment, your environment is a reflection of your thoughts. So just go out there. And for me, food is a lovely way to go and promote what you want to speak about. So that is what I want to end with this thought, that let's turn poison into medicine, one dish at a time. Thank you.